take your seats, ladies and gentlemen.
You get the business at the second round.
I was curious today.
Oh, that's fine.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Tuesday, 3 March, 6:30 p.m. on the City of University City City Council to order. Form check, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Here.
Councilmember Putt. Here. Councilmember Shelby.
Here.
Sorry. Councilmember Duval.
Here.
Councilmember Vaughn.
Discuss in a second.
We have a quorum.
All right. Mr. Bond is on approved absence. He is on a work-related mission, and so we're not here tonight. With that, the invocation is going to be given by Mr. Raval, and I'm releasing the pledge.
Heavenly Father, we appreciate your guidance as always tonight and throughout all our decisions. Let us keep in mind that it's the residents of Universal City that we serve. Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. You may be seated. We're going to have a little change in the agenda tonight. We have no one signed up for citizens to be heard, but we're going to move the audit report up front before we move forward. That way we have we need to just speed that one up fast.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, I'm getting the podium ready for you. We have Ms. Janet Pittman here. As you know, she's been our auditor, and she's going to go through the audit with you and answer any questions that you may have before you approve it.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here this evening to go over the results of your 2025 audit. Hopefully you've all received a copy. It's a little over 100 pages. There's a lot of sections in there. We'll briefly go through some of those sections. So why do we do an audit? Well, cities are required to have an audit every year. It's mandated by the Texas State Legislature, Local Government Code 103, I believe it is. It was always due by the end of March. This past year, the state legislature put some teeth in that legislation. And now you can have no new tax revenues if you do not have your audit completed by the end of March. So we are working on a lot of cities trying to comply with that legislation. Anyway, so what is the purpose of an audit? That's why you have an audit. The purpose of an audit is to form an independent auditor's opinion on whether your financial statements are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We are required to follow 2 sets of standards: generally accepted auditing standards, which is issued by the AICPA, and government auditing standards, which is issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. The government auditing standards are because you are a local government, so we are required to follow those standards in addition to the regular standards. We have issued an unmodified audit opinion. This is the highest level of assurance that we can give you as your independent auditors. It is basically, we didn't make any modifications to your financial statements, and we have asserted that they are prepared in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The first section in the next section in the financial statements are what we call the management discussion and analysis. This is required disclosures, and it's a comparison from 2024 to 2025. And it's on the full accrual basis, which means it has all your assets, all of your bonds, and everything are on these statements. We'll go through some of the highlights of those statements. So we've got there's two columns in there if you've looked at the financials. One is the governmental activities and one is the business type activities. So the governmental activities are all of your general fund, your capital projects, your debt service, and all your special revenue funds are combined into one column. And the business type activities are your water, your sewer, your golf course, and your stormwater, and they're all in one column. This is required GASB 34 that we present it this way. So your assets of the city exceeded your liabilities, which is called your net position, by $109 million at the end of the year. Sounds like a lot, but it's divided between the governmental activities and the business type activities. And it's not all meant for ongoing operations. You've got investment in net assets in both categories, which are about 60% of the total. You also have some restricted assets that are in there, and then you have your unrestricted portion. So what happened with the net position this year? It did increase by $8.8 million from last year. Again, separate disclosures, governmental activities, $3.9 million. Most of that increase was due to a sale of a piece of land for $1.8 million. And the business type activities, the increase was $4.9 million. That increase was primarily due to increase in some of your charges for your services in the water and sewer fund. You had collected some more impact fees, and also the golf course fees increased this year. So now I'm going to talk about just the governmental funds, and this is what you're used to looking at. This is where you get your budget to actual information, and these are separate funds, so you have all your funds are separated in this area. Overall, your total fund balances were $28.1 million, and that includes, again, the general fund, the capital projects, debt service, and your special revenue funds. The general fund had $18 million, which represented about almost 12 months of your operating expenditures, same as last year was 12.9 months. I know the city likes to keep it right at 12 months, so you're very, very healthy right there in the general fund. Again, that $18 million is meant for ongoing expenditures for next year. You do have some restricted fund balance in the general fund. You've got $490,000. And that includes some donations that you received for park improvements, the Veterans Park, animal care services. And then the Capital Projects Fund has about $5 million, and that's unspent bond money that is restricted for certain projects. And the Debt Service Fund has $337,000 meant for debt service. Obviously, those are restricted. The other piece of the restricted are you have some hotel motel taxes, the venue tax, court security, court technology, that kind of information. Okay. So general fund highlights. Your revenues were $21.2 million, which was a $2.6 million increase from the prior year. Small increases in the ad valorem sales and court fines. Again, you'll hear about the state sale of that land. That really helped the increase from last year versus this year. $1.8 million, the land down there by Chick-fil-A. Yay. Expenditures were $18.7 million, very small increase. Really exceptional that you're keeping your expenditures pretty close to last year. We had a little increase in the parks and police and the fire. Well, that was offset by not spending as much in your capital outlay as you did in the prior year. Budgetary highlights. Okay, so your actual revenues were $2.1 million more than the budget. You budgeted $19 million, your actual was $21.2 million, which was 111% of your adopted budget. Now, we didn't budget for that sale of land, so I'm going to take that out of the equation, and you end up with 1.9 million % of your adopted budget. So you have recurring revenues of 19.3. So you made about $306,000 more than what you budgeted. And that's taking out that sale of land. The actual expenditures were 3.2 million less than the budget. We budgeted 19.4, your actual is 18.7. 95% of your adopted budget. Can't get much closer than that. That indicates that it should to your stakeholders here in the audience. Strong fiscal oversight. Departments are really disciplined about their spending and paying attention to their budget and being within their means. And then again, it's in alignment with the city council's plan and your adopted budget that you adopted last year, and also very good stewardship of public funds. You have 3 proprietary funds. They are what we call enterprise funds. They're meant to make money. So your water and sewer, your stormwater, your golf all had positive increases in your net position this year. They're very healthy. We've got some impact fees that are set aside for future projects. I think that's all good news, especially the golf fund. So I spoke about it in the beginning. We are to perform our audits in accordance with government auditing standards. And so we issue another report on the government auditing standards. And it is internal controls of financial reporting. So when we first come into the city, when we start our audit, we're looking at major processes and making sure that the internal controls, segregation of duties are good. We test them and they're operating as designed. So if we had any problems, it would be in this report, but we are pleased to say that we had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls. That's all I had on the financials. Does anyone have any questions before I go through this slide? We also, in addition to the audit, we issue a letter on the conduct of the audit. These are required disclosures. We are required to disclose whether or not you had any new accounting policies this year, and you did. You had GASB 101, Government Accounting Standards Boards, who sets the standards on how we account for items. And there was a change on how we had to account for compensated absences. It didn't affect the city too much. You'll see your restatement in your financials. I think it was 85,000 in the governmental activities and about 73,000 in the business type activities. We're required to tell you if you have any accounting estimates in your financials. The major one is really TMRS. It's all of the net pension liability and the OPEB liabilities. We get all that information from the state, and they change every year. So difficulties in performing the audit, misstatements and disagreements. We are pleased to say we didn't have anything to report in any of those categories. Management is required to present us with a management representation letter. All that really does is say, confirm that you gave us everything we needed to perform our audit. We're required to tell you if management went out and kind of shop for a second opinion on an accounting matter, and that didn't happen as far as we know. And in addition to performing the financial audit, we're also required to test the compliance with the Public Funds Investment Act and your investment policy, and we did find that the city is in compliance with that act and with your investment policy. That's all I have, other than to thank Kim and Christine and all their staff. We asked for a lot of information, and we got it always very timely, which is why we're here May 3rd, or March 3rd. March, not May yet. Anyway.
Any questions? I think Mr. Roll.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a recent discussion with regard to how the city complies with Government Accounting Standards Board, particularly with regard to capital assets for things like infrastructure repair. And I've got some clarification from Ms. Turner that it's incorporated into the audit in some manner. But if I consider that there are 93 streets out that need repair of approximately $900 to $1 million per street for reconstruction, of which we have a bond for only about 25% of that. I don't see how that translates in the audit. So, for example, I would see that as an 80 to $90 million debt, future debt, deferred debt. Last year I tried to get a handle on it, but this year I'd kind of like your guidance on how we comply with government accounting standards, specifically Statement 34, with regard to depreciation of our city's infrastructure, not this building, not our capital equipment, but our streets and our other infrastructure needs.
Okay, that's a very technical question. The city implemented GASB 34 back in 2005. I think it was a phase-in, and there was a study done on all of your infrastructure, and that's what was put on the books. And then, prior to that, we didn't put those on the financial statements. So we have a starting value. Now, I'm assuming that in your capital projects or your 5-year improvement plan that you're looking at those types of items, you're selling bonds to prepare for that. As far as putting it on the books, a deferred expenditure that we're going to have in the future, no, that's part of your plan going for your 5-year plan, 10-year plan going forward. We do have your infrastructure on the books. We add to it every year. If it's a new road, if it's just a repair, it's expensed. Does that answer your question? Do you have?
It's depreciated every year.
And they are depreciated every year.
So
At the government-wide level.
So that runs into kind of the paradox. So we're depreciating the value of our roads, which means that essentially there's a more of an unseen cost for repair. Is that not correct?
Well, it should be in your budget for if you're going to repair a road.
Well, we have no budget that goes out to repair all our roads, to my knowledge.
All our roads? No.
Now, all the roads identified in the, of the 93 that Randy brought to our attention that needed repair.
So I think you're mixing an apple and a taco. She's telling you that when we go out and we do the bonds and we work on those streets, that she includes that in our debt service, and it's depreciated over time within it. And you're talking about a 20-year plan to improve streets, and she's saying they don't go on there until you've actually issued the bond work to have that done, and then it gets depreciated. All the things that were done in the past are already rolled into that number. So I'm going to use Mr. Goldsby as an example. He has a building, he paid $100,000 a year for it, he gets 5 years straight line depreciation. At the end of it, his depreciation is done, but his use of the building is not done. And so therein lies the difference between the capital improvement plan and an auditing practice. On the books, it has a zero value. It doesn't mean it's at its end of its life.
That's basically my understanding also, that on the books, the depreciation of our streets is now at zero value because they've been on the list since 2009. Fair? Is that fair?
It doesn't matter. From what I understand what you're saying, it has no bearing on the usability and the perceived value of the streets, which she's telling you that since 2005, we've been slowly depreciating that, which you would expect to do. And so I'm going to assume that we have a lot of streets over that 21-year period. They have a depreciation value of 0. But the streets are still there and they can still be used.
We look each year to see if it was a repair, or, and we work with Randy on it, whether it was a repair or a
A reconstruction.
reconstruction. If it's a reconstruction, it goes on the books. If it's a new road, it goes on the books. And it's depreciated.
And if it's a repair, it's expensed. So as in, we take it all off this year and we forget that we ever did the work. Until it goes through a reconstruction and then it goes back on and then it gets depreciated over time. I don't know what the timeline is for depreciation on the street.
They're different for
Approximately 20 years.
What is it? 40 years.
40 years, not 30. Infrastructure, 10 to 30 years.
10 to 30 years, depending on the type of infrastructure. So it could be that a lot of it that we started with originally has already been depreciated out. So on the books, it has a 0 value, but it can still be used.
It's just very hard to comprehend the reality of that. But I appreciate the fact that we're compliant now with Government Accounting Standards Board Statement Number 34. I appreciate that fact. I do appreciate the fact that we also have a deferred cost of nearly $100 million that we have to weigh versus our essentially Project 35 plan, type thing, how these things fit in. So that's my concern.
You will always, always have street repairs to be done. Even if we did 50% of the streets this year and 50% of the streets next year, on that third year, there's still street repair work that needs to be done. It never goes away. You don't fix it. If it's a reconstruct, we better get 20 years out of it. I'm looking at Randy. You can get 20 years out of it, a new street or a totally reconstructed street. But even then, it may need some minor repairs during that time. You're going to do some crack sealing and some potholing. It never goes away.
I totally agree with that statement.
Thank you. I'm glad we agree on something.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Help me from when I think of depreciation, I think of what a business does to basically reduce their taxable assets, right? Where does that cross-reference into why does a city depreciate the value of something? What is the benefit of doing that? It kind of leads into why we're concerned about depreciation.
Well, you don't expense it all in 1 year. You over time, it shows the value of that street over time.
Is that just to show the value? That's all we're doing. It's for tracking purposes only. We spend $2 million on a section of street. It's worth $2 million today. It's worth 1.8 next year, 1.6 the year after that. And so it's just more of a valuation of it. Okay, which is, to me, in my mind, is completely separate from the cost of maintenance of it.
Correct.
Yes.
So I have a street, I built it, somebody has a gnarly accident on it, tears the street up, we have to fix it.
You're gonna repair it.
We get a lot of rain, or we get a freeze, the water gets in there, causes damage, we have to fix it. And then it's just, when we get into deferred maintenance, in my mind, hey, there's some pretty good cracks on that, we need to seal it, but I've got something over here I need to do a mill and overlay. More important than trying to seal this. Now, obviously, if we put it up, kick the can too far down the road, those cracks are going to be bigger, and we may have to get to the point where we can't just seal it. But that's where the balancing act is for me.
Yes, which is why you have faith in your public works director and our engineers that they know that we're a priority.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
Yes, sure. I think some of your streets are maintained by TxDOT also, so
Yes.
it's not all on the city.
Any other questions or comments? Call for a motion.
Move for approval.
Second. Call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Putt,
Aye.
Councilmember Revolt.
With the gas, aye. For gas fee.
Motion carried.
Motion carried and approved. Now, excuse me, now we're going to get back onto schedule again. Janet, thank you ever so much for the presentation, and I appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you again next year.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 5, we're going to staff reports.
Yes, Mayor, we appreciate your indulgence. We do have quite a bit of reports this evening. We're going to go ahead and start with our Universal City Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. This is an update. We're going to talk about the work that's been done, and I believe at the end of it, we're hoping to get some idea of some next steps that we want after we get some guidance from City Council. So, Danielle, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell them what you're working on this evening.
Good evening. So Mayor, council members, thank y'all for having me today. I'm here to provide an update on where we are with the Universal City Safety Action Plan. My name is Danielle Metzger-Galarza. I'm the consultant working on the action plan, leading those efforts. With me, I also have some of my team members as well in the audience. But really, what we're going to talk about today is just discuss the Safe Streets for All program, provide an overview of what that is, components of that program, and then of course where we are right now. So the program. What we like to call SS4A, Safe Streets for All. It's a program that supports community nationwide eliminating those fatal and serious injury crashes. And so the program was established under the bipartisan infrastructure law with a total of $5 billion in funding over 5 years. So that was from 2022 to 2026. So it's built on the Federal Highway Administration Safe System approach, which accepts that crashes happen. I mean, we know they happen, but ultimately it's focusing on preventing those severe outcomes, so the fatal and the serious injuries. And so this program emphasizes with a strong public engagement component to ensure that local concerns and priorities really shape those safety solutions. And so what this does at the end of the day is it sets you guys up, it sets Universal City up to compete for future implementation grants later on down the road. But most importantly, this is proactive. And so it's focusing on fixing known safety risks before someone is killed and seriously injured. So the funding, SS4A, is really broken into two separate buckets, two different implementation categories. So we have planning and demonstration, and implementation. So planning and demonstration, this is a grant that supports safety action plans, so what we're here today, what we're doing, the supplemental planning projects, and then pilot programs. The implementation grant, which is where we want to be later on down the road, is focusing on construction and then delivery of those projects that are within or identified within the safety action plan. So for tonight, really what this plan is doing is it's setting the foundation for future funding later on down the road. Now, when is the grant opportunity going to be open? We've been told spring of 2026. In the past, it's been the end of March. So we're right there. We are in March. So we are anticipating those grant applications to be open at least by the end of the month, which lines up with the plan, the draft, and then ultimate adoption later on down the road. So these are the different SS4A components that are required as part of the U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration guidelines. And so each one of these components has like leadership commitment, which really is identifying your vision and your goal setting, has safety analysis and community engagement. The last part, transparency. So that's kind of where we are. That's why we have you guys here. That's why we have our safety task force team with the city and the fire and police department. But all of these components are really just to ensure that we are progressing safety in Universal City, ensuring that the delivery that is being implemented and that this plan is actually going to be done at the end of the day. So a little Universal City history. So back in 2024, Universal City applied for and was awarded the SS4A grant to be able to do this action plan. Last year, 2025, Kimley Horn was procured as a consultant to perform the work associated with this, and we actually had our kickoff meeting with Randy and his team as well. Two of the big items, as I mentioned earlier, engagement, community engagement is a big box that we have to check. We need that community involvement. So we had two pop-up events, and maybe you guys saw us there. But our first one was at the Pumpkin Patch, and that one we allowed the community to be able to comment and identify on those key project locations, so areas within the city that they perceive as having high crash volumes. The second event, which was at the tree lighting event in December, we kind of took it a step further. So we then sought community input on the types of infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects that they would like to see being implemented within the community. So when it comes to progress to date, where are we right now? So we have evaluated crash data within the entire city over the last 5 years, so that's from 2020 to 2024, to identify our high injury network. What is a high injury network? So it's a set of streets and intersections within the city that have the highest fatal and serious injuries. And so this really helps the community, this helps you guys to be able to better focus on those safety improvements where they're needed most. And so over the last 5 years, Universal City has experienced 688 crashes from 2020 to 2024. As identified during one of our safety task force meetings, really the first one where we talked about goal setting and what we want the foundation, the framework of the plan to look like. We really want the city's long-term goal is to eliminate roadway fatalities and serious injuries on Universal City roadways by 2050. So this is not eliminating all crashes. This is really just focusing on those ones that are fatal and that are severe. But we've made a lot of great progress so far on all of these different elements. And so we're currently in that final stage. We're in that last stretch, which really includes the development of the plan and then project implementation later on down the road. So engagement and collaboration, as I mentioned, this is really a core part of our effort. And I was talking to Mayor Maxwell earlier. I really like to compliment y'all's community. Y'all are very engaged. You guys always have residents and visitors that are being part of every event that you guys have. So I've been to several of these pop-up events, and it just shows to prove that you guys' community cares. And I think that's very important when it comes to something like this, where we are talking about people's lives here. So we have completed 3 safety task force meetings. The safety task force is comprised of city council members, we have city staff, even representatives from the police and fire department, and unfortunately Councilman Vaughn isn't here, but he was also part of that team. And so he played a really big part in voicing concerns within the community and helping to identify those projects and what they may look like going forward. But we have completed 3 of those meetings. I talked a little bit earlier about our pop-up events, so we have completed those as well. We had a community survey from October to November where people were able to comment and identify. There was a map, an interactive map, that allowed residents to be able to select maybe where there's a near miss, so something that may not have been identified on a crash report. Areas that they think or perceive as being unsafe. And so the community was able to comment and provide feedback on all of that. Out of all of those events, including the pop-up events and the survey, we had over 400 responses, which is amazing. I know sometimes some communities get a lot of survey fatigue, But you guys still had a lot of people who were engaged and wanting to provide input. One of the last items that is still active, and it's been active from the very beginning, is the Universal City Safety Dashboard. So this allows the community and you guys to be able to interact with the crash data to kind of see where those hot spots may be. And this is only really, I know I've been talking 2020 to 2024 crash data. So this can always be refined whenever that new year, so 2025 coming up soon, those could easily be analyzed as well. Part of it, though, I know you guys may not have access to that. We can definitely coordinate with Randy and his team and being able to give you all the link to be able to kind of sift through the data and see where the crashes are happening. So the safety analysis, so this slide is really summarizing the foundation and where our projects came from. And so what we're looking at is where are those crashes occurring, but how can these help us identify the projects at the end of the day? So nearly 2/3 of all crashes occur on the high entry network, so that's the 452. Most of the crashes happen at intersections or roadway segments, really reinforcing the need for those targeted improvements. Looking at the top 5 crash types, when we look at fixed objects, rear end, angle crashes, and left turn crashes, that just emphasizes that we are focusing or looking at the types of crashes that happen at intersections. So they go hand in hand. So when we're looking at infrastructure projects, so what is this gonna actually look like when we go to build it and construct it? We're really separating it into these 3 different buckets. So we have intersections that we're focusing on, corridors, and then systemic. So projects that can be implemented citywide. And so it's kind of like a layering, like a cake. And so we really want to ensure that these improvements are addressing both specific problem locations and then also citywide safety risks, which is where the systemic improvements come into play. And so one thing I would like to reiterate, we're not redesigning every street in Universal City. We don't want to do that. But what we are really focusing on is a high injury network, and then being able to deliver measurable safety improvements. And so once again, this is a targeted strategy based on data, so the safety analysis, and then also national best practices as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about targeted recommendations. So what intersections and corridors are we focusing on? And so we've identified, as well as with the safety task force team, and then also at the pop-up events that we've attended, these are the intersection and corridors that have been identified from a crash history of having the highest number of crashes, the most crashes, but then the public also perceives these as being terrible too. So this is really where we have focused our efforts and where the safety task force team has also identified these as priorities. And then systemic safety countermeasures. So what we are addressing here is a common crash type across multiple locations. So these are really low cost and are actual proven treatments that can be implemented throughout the whole city. And so the goal really is to address those common crash factors to prevent those serious fatal and serious injuries later on down the road. So some examples of what those look like are dedicated left and right turn lanes, emergency vehicle preemption detection, LED flashing chevrons, and then when we're looking at vulnerable road users, so pedestrian, bicyclists, rectangular rapid flashing beacons and upgrading school zone flashers are some of the key countermeasures that the safety task force team and then even the public would want to see implemented in this plan. So I know I talked about the infrastructure part. But where we need you guys' help is really talking about those policies and programs later on down the road. This is really going to make sure that all of these investments that we're proposing are effective over time. And so in addition to those physical improvements, these policy updates are going to be critical to long-term success with this whole plan. So some actions that are part of that would be to have an ADA transition plan, implementing a traffic calming policy, establishing street design standards, even traffic signal design standards associated with that. I know you guys have a couple signals online that you guys are maintaining, and then also crosswalk design guidance when we're talking about vulnerable users. So this is kind of the laying out the path for the end of the road. But this kind of where we are right now, so we're finalizing the implementation actions. Following this meeting, and then if we have any other comments from Randy and his team, the action plan, the draft action plan will be publicly available online for the community to review and comment, and for you guys as well. But ultimately, we are seeking the city council adoption date to be in April, and that's where we will need your guys' help and your input with that moving forward. But once again, this is a baseline, this is a framework, the foundation that is going to set the city up for eliminating those fatalities and serious crashes within your city. So once again, thank you. Do you have any questions for me?
What direction are you looking for from city council this evening?
So right now we are looking to, from your guys' guidance, if you guys have any questions regarding the plan moving forward, kind of where we are, but we will be seeking resolution come April for adoption of the plan.
Questions or comments from city council there?
So, any questions, any comments? Mr. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You presented a half dozen large circles. Are you not able to produce a heat map of where those accidents are? And two, there's principally a focus in the high traffic areas. For example, there's nothing associated with crosswalks near the parks or limited site areas and so forth. It's probably in the plan, but there's nothing that is presented there about that. It seems to be a focus on Atwood Road and Kitty Hawk for the most part. So at least we'd be presenting heat maps of the accidents to more specifically zone in on the areas where there are those accidents. And can you define essentially the severity of the 600 plus accidents that you've charted since 2000 in the last few years?
Yes, so I don't have access to the PowerPoint. I did provide the heat map. It's some of the hidden slides, so I can show that if we have time. I think it's 16, is that 16? No, the next one, there we go. So there's a crash heat map that's identifying the locations where we have where crashes are occurring. So you can see Kitty Hawk, FM 78, and then a couple intersections on Pat Booker where those crashes are occurring. So yes, and we're also able to identify what type of crashes those are, what happened why they happened, what type of major collision was it, what type of crash was it, and then the severity as well. So we have all of that data, and all of that will be provided, and is provided in the draft plan.
It's of interest that, for example, your heat map there shows Pat Booker, except for the 78 intersection, Randolph, I assume that's where it's at, is relatively clear in what we call the aviation district, which was actually the focus of a traffic corridor in that section. The data doesn't sort of directly support that high number of crashes in that site. I'm just, it sort of stands out from that.
Yes, yeah, so hopefully this provides a little bit better, detail as to, maybe what you're looking for. I know one thing that you did talk about was crosswalks, and how, kind of looking at the parks, near parks in those areas. One thing that we did, or are required to evaluate as part of the components for the safety action plan, we have to look at it from an equitable standpoint. And so when we look at it from equity, Universal City does not fall within, and it's not identified as an underserved community as part of the USDOT. We don't want to disregard that though. Like, we still want to be able to identify from an equity standpoint, what are we looking at? And so one thing that we did identify as part of the safety action team was focusing on areas where there are vulnerable users. And so near schools, near parks, near the civic center. I mean, this area right here is a great example when you do have events, vulnerable users that attend. So we did take that into consideration, and that was part of identifying where exactly we propose projects.
Any other questions? I have one comment. Is traffic flow taken into consideration, the actual volume of traffic in these major corridors?
Yes, congestion is part of it. However, when we look at congestion is not really a factor. FHWA does not consider a factor of safety. So when we are looking at improvements, we're not going to propose an improvement because of congestion. We've got to show the crash history associated with it as well. Now, when you kind of flip that, when we're looking at intersections, we said intersections were one of the higher areas of where crashes are occurring. Kind of goes back to congestion. So you have rear-end crashes, you have right and left angle crashes, those types of things. So while we don't explicitly aren't looking at congestion areas where there are a lot of queues, some of the crashes are related to that as well.
Okay, that answers my that question. One last thing, concern is with TxDOT and the construction on 35. Universal City has become a pass-through city, and we get a lot of pass-through traffic coming in here. Has it been taken into consideration once the 35 project is complete up to Cibolo and the flow back to normal? Have any idea what normal might look like?
Well, I feel like there's been a lot of.
I'm asking you to wave magic wand.
Yeah. I wish I had a magic wand. I feel like all of us, just like we have survey fatigue, I think construction is another great example of that as well. And unfortunately, TxDOT is always improving roadways. Now what we look at, now when we're looking at later down the road, maybe next year, maybe whenever these projects are complete, I think that would be a great, when we look at this implementation further on down the road and continue to evaluate crash data, that would be a great way to measure progress, to see, okay, construction is complete, now we don't have as many crashes, or we don't have as much traffic, so do we have as many crashes? We'll have to, that would be a great thing to evaluate later on down the road, when construction is complete.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And consensus of the council is to proceed?
Yes.
Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, thank you.
No action needs to be taken at this point in time by the council, correct? Other than that, so now the flock camera update.
Thank you. So Chief Mahalski's going to be here. He's going to touch on an update on the flock camera. We remember we did this about 6 months ago, I guess. And then he's going to talk about Universal City crime statistics, which I believe also he's put a report in front of all of you. Thank you, Steve.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Like Ms. Turner said, I'm going to speak a little bit about our crime stats and then go into a little bit about FLOP. This should be relatively brief. We did this a few months ago, and I did a 5-year crime trend. So with this one, we're going to focus on 2025 with a comparison for 2024, and that's the paper that you have in front of you. I didn't list all the numbers on the PowerPoint, so for those of you in the audience, I'll try to touch on some of them. But Counselor, you have the numbers in front of you if you have any concerns about anything. So as you can see on this first slide, for 2025, we came in with 1,442 Group A offenses. And that's just down 42 from last year, 1484, which is about our static line most of the way across. We had a spike in 2023, if you remember from the last report, about 17%, and in 2024 it dropped 16%, which put us back about where we're at. So we had a 8.3% decrease this year in crime from 2024, which is consistent with our historical data here. Group A offenses are broken down in 3 different categories. It's crimes against persons, crimes against property, and crimes against society. So for this first slide, we're going to deal with crimes against persons, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's where you have an offender and a human victim. It covers most of your assault offenses, aggravated assault, sexual assault, simple assaults, murders, manslaughter, those kind of things. So we have a decrease this year in sexual assaults. On the paperwork that you see in front of you, UCR lists that as rape and sodomy. In Texas, both of those fall under sexual assault. So we have a decrease in those numbers this year. We have a decrease in aggravated assaults. Aggravated assaults is any assault that occurs against a person where a weapon is involved or serious bodily injury occurred. And then simple assaults are your fights and less injured assault type offenses. When I talk about the numbers that change, the decreases and the increases, just so that you understand, the first one there on the increase is a murder. We had 2 last year and 1 in 2024. A lot of our offenses are single digits, whether it's an increase or a decrease. They're single digit changes or teens. We have very, very few things that went any more beyond that. So we actually stay, our crime level here is very steady and relatively even throughout, whether there's a slight increase or not. So we did have an increase in homicides. We had an increase in harassment type cases. Fondling, that up until just a few years ago would have fallen under simple assault. So that offense changed now to where there's an indecent assault, and fondling falls under that. So I don't know that this is necessarily an increase or just a separate offense that makes it look. So it's being reported more, I guess, because now it's a new offense that people are becoming aware of. And then kidnapping was a pretty big jump. On your paperwork, you'll see the percent increase was 650%. We went from 2 in 2024 to 15 in 2025. What I want to be clear on is we did not have 15 kidnapping cases in Universal City. Unlawful restraint also falls under that category for reporting purposes. And unlawful restraint is typically where it's usually a domestic disturbance or some sort of known disturbance where someone's trying to leave or get out of a car or go somewhere else and the other person is preventing them from doing that. That is unlawful restraint. When we make an arrest for family violence or some other charge, that charge gets added into it. It's very seldom prosecuted. They really got to hold somebody for a long time and really start a big ordeal where we're having to call negotiators out and get into a big standoff type situation before the DA is going to prosecute that case. Well, we did have an increase in those reported offenses last year, and that's a big jump there, which led to an overall 1.8% increase in crimes against persons, largely due to that one statistic right there. I think if that was removed, it would have been a net decrease. And again, most of these offenses are known offenders. This does not mean that you're in any kind of danger walking into Walmart or any kind of store here that some random person is going to assault you or try to kidnap you or do anything like that. Most of these offenses happen from people that are known. Crimes against...
Shelby has a question.
So, I'm sorry.
Yes, thank you. Could you go back a slide? Sorry, I just wanted to ask it while it's fresh in my mind. Reporting, I'll use the unlawful restraint as a great example. You said that you, pardon me if I use the term wrong, you tack it on in most situations domestic. Do we have that as a concern that in some ways that might skew our numbers? Because if we're charging it, but then that charge gets dropped, we're not seeing that report later on.
Well, I don't always necessarily mean that we're tacking it on like an additional charge.
Yeah,
it gets listed in the report.
Okay.
Because it occurred. So we do list it in the report, and that gets reported to UCR for this.
Okay, but if it's litigated and dropped, the charges are dropped, that doesn't affect our reporting numbers, does it?
No, because it still occurred.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Crimes against property this year, we had a decrease in robbery, arson, theft, motor vehicle thefts, forgery, and criminal mischief. Criminal mischief is vandalism and destruction of people's properties. Again, these are single-digit or teen-type changes, whether up or down. We have an increase in burglaries, fraud, embezzlement, and stolen property offenses. Stolen property offenses as an increase is actually a positive because then we're recovering stolen property. That's how those charges come about. So we actually had a decrease in theft offenses this year and an increase in recovered stolen property. So that's positive for us and for the community. There's a 1.9% decrease overall in crimes against property from 2024. In crimes against society, these are what we call victimless crime. It's where you get caught doing something wrong. There's not necessarily a victim involved in it. We had a decrease in narcotic violations and also in drug paraphernalia violations and a decrease in weapons offenses. We had 1 prostitution arrest this year, up from 0 last year, so that was an increase. And we had a few obscene material pornography type charges, which those are typically also a known person who has some compromising photos of someone, and whenever they feel they've been wrong, they threaten to post those online, or they do post them online. That's where those charges come from, obscene material. So overall, for crimes against society, we also had a 10.5% decrease. Overall, we had very, very minimal changes. Like I said, low digit changes, either up or down, and it's consistent with what our historical trends are for the city. Theft, simple assault, and drug violations are our 3 most common occurrences that we deal with on a regular basis. Those were the 3 highest on here again. But we don't see any patterns of areas or any indications of high crime neighborhoods or anything like that that we have to specifically target against. Most of the offenses that we get here our theft offenses are coming from Walmart and H-E-B for the most part. Random car burglaries and things happen in other places. Domestic assaults happen all over town. There's not a way to zero in on that. We don't have any area that gives us concern that it is an unsafe area. And we'll just continue to be focused on what we do. When something pops up and we see a trend that there is a certain type of offense coming in, or a certain name we see a lot, or a certain address we're going to a lot, that's where we focus our attention to until we solve that issue and get those people moving along with the problems resolved. Moving into the Flock stuff, Flock has proved to be an invaluable tool for us investigative-wise. Our last audit, we were in 100% compliance with our policies and procedures, meaning that our officers are following policy. They have to have a case number and a authorized reason to conduct the search. It has to be listed in the system. Our next audit is due in May of 2026. I have per month on here, over 2 million vehicle reads per month. I'm approximating this because when you look at the system, you look at it daily, it's a 30-day window. So tomorrow, it'll be the last 30 days. The next day, it'll be the previous 30 days. So it's not, we don't technically do it by month, we do it by the last 30 days. And it's roughly in these areas right here. Today, when I looked, it was 2.3 million for the last 30 days. That's how many vehicles are being read by our cameras. In relation to that, we run about 200 searches a month. So it's 1,000% of the vehicles that come across our cameras do we run searches on or toward. The hot lists are license plates or vehicle descriptions that we can put in trying to get a lead on a case that we're actively working. We get about 1,000 hot list alerts over that 30-day period. This graph here shows what our hot list looks like. This is a 6-month period, I believe, that ended in January. So probably August through January or January last year. So the custom hot list, the green on the bottom and the blue, these are our entries. Official hot list alerts are an actual license plate or a vehicle that we're actively looking for that we're asking officers to stop and take a person into custody or investigate further. The green part is a vehicle description. If someone goes into Walmart and commits a theft and they leave and we get a vehicle description of a gray Honda sedan, prior to Flock, that case would have ended right there unless we had an officer sitting in the parking lot or very close by that happened to catch it coming out. Now we can enter a gray Honda sedan into Flock, and we will get a picture of every gray Honda sedan that came down Katy Hawk to that street in that time frame. And that gives our detectives something to work off of to start looking for further identifying things to make a reason to contact, to narrow it down to a suspect to contact. Whereas in the past, it would have just been, hope you see it on the way out and we're not catching those. So that's a vehicle that's just based on our description. The green and the orange, those are other cities, other alerts that come into our city that we pick up on cameras. And then on the right, you'll see the breakdown of some of the things that have come through. These are all things that come through our camera in the last 6 months. 990 protective orders, 204 stolen plates, 171 sex offenders, 58 stolen vehicles, 46 warrants, 30 missing persons, 18 violent persons, and 3 suspected gang members. It's good information to know. We get it in real time. Officers know where those vehicles come in, those people are here. It doesn't mean that we're going out to look for every single one of them, but there may be a reason that we have to. It's used extensively by CID to obtain leads that would not have been possible, just like I was saying with the green car at Walmart. Officers are alerted to stolen vehicles, sex offenders, protective orders, missing persons, and wanted persons in real time. We do outcomes, and so I've got pages and pages. It's dozens and dozens of cases that we have been able to make, and arrests we've been able to make, cases we've been able to solve because of FLOC. A few of the highlighted ones are all that I put in here tonight. But a vehicle theft case, we identified the vehicle based on FLOC. Turns out it was an active ring that was operating in Universal City and Commerce, and we solved several theft cases with that. Another one, similar case, ended up being a statewide burglary ring or theft ring that we were able to work with DPS, transfer that over to them, and get statewide organized crime charges filed against this group. Another one in San Antonio that I didn't list on here, we worked with San Antonio. It was a theft ring that had burglarized or shoplifted items from HEB, over 20 different HEBs in the San Antonio area. We had a couple of them here. We caught them on our FLOC cameras. We're able to pass that information on to San Antonio, and they were able to close those 20 some odd cases for HEB. We located a missing suicidal person that was in active crisis that resulted in an emergency detention. We got that person into the hospital prior to them having an opportunity to harm themselves. We've recovered numerous stolen vehicles and stolen license plates and stolen property as well. And this last one here, just a couple months ago, we had a stolen vehicle hit, and our officer was in the area, saw the vehicle pull into a parking lot of a shopping center. As they're pulling in and approaching the vehicle, the driver gets out and walks in the store by himself, nobody else in the car. They confirmed the vehicle, checked the license plate, it is stolen. So waited for other officers to get there, waited outside, took the guy into custody, and detained him as he came out. He had blood on his clothes, there were bullet holes in the car, and blood in the car, and he was carrying a firearm. The night before, he shot a person at a gas station on Vance Jackson in San Antonio, killed him. Committed a murder, came over here, and was going to dump the vehicle and leave with his girlfriend. And FLOC turned us on to him. We were able to get him in custody, turn it over to San Antonio, and he was charged with murder. So, like I said, it's an invaluable tool. It's worked out great. Our officers are using it the way that we expected them to use it. Nobody's abusing the system. We're doing what we're supposed to, and it's working well for us. Any questions?
Any questions? Mr. Mayor. I'm going to have a hand up first, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you give me an example of go back. I want to make sure I get the wording right. Sorry. There it is. Protective order. Where would a protective order be involved in using a FLOC camera? Because that was one of the highest numbers on there. So can you give?
Yeah, protective orders are entered by a lot of different agencies, including the counties, the state. And what that will do for us is let us know if we have an assault, an active assault that occurs, and the suspect leaves, the victim tells us, yes, it's so-and-so, and I have a protective order against him, we can verify, if he went in front of this camera, that person was in our area.
So it's stacked on, so it's stacked on top of the assault. So the assault is the base, or some type of crime to a person, right, but that's also tied to a protective order. So the protective order by itself isn't really being used. So, hey, we've got a protective order, we're looking for this vehicle.
We're not going after vehicles that have a protective order.
Okay.
It's more of a knowledge base for us. It's in the system, and that way we know. If we had a house or a victim that we knew was in danger, or someone coming over there with threats against him, and we get a notification that person that's listed in the protective order is coming into our city, our officers may start working their way toward the house to make sure that vehicle doesn't go to the house or something like that.
Okay.
It's a deterrent.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, that just because the numbers were pretty high on that one. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. We're going to break it down into two parts. We'll do the FLOC first and technique. First of all, the presentation on the resident capture with the FLOC is important. how many flock cameras are needed?
Needed?
I mean, do we need more? And do we need, or can we get by with less?
Well, we currently have 12. There are a few areas in town that are, what we try to focus on when we set the cameras up is inbound traffic from all the ingress points from outside of our city. That way we have a pretty good grasp on if a crime happens here, a decent chance that we picked up a suspect vehicle that was coming into our town is the idea. So there's some areas on the south end of Pat Booker that aren't covered. The north end of Universal City Boulevard isn't covered. There's some issues with 1604 and 78 because of TxDOT. Permitting takes longer, it's a little bit more of a cost, so we left those off initially. So if we were to ever add more, there's a few places that we could put them. I don't think we should use less. I think what we have is a good amount now, and I'd like to see more at some point in the future.
Okay. And then when I look at those numbers and I trend the clearance rate for crimes, first of all, the department does a very excellent job clearance rate wise. It's one of the highest in surrounding areas. But the flock, since the introduction of flock, there hasn't, or even the fourth detective, there hasn't really been a big decrease in that clearance rate. It's more or less been stable somewhere around 42-ish to 45%, something like that. Is that about right? Is that a fair statement? So I guess is the flock camera, the question is the flock camera actually have a dent on improving the clearance rate of crime in Universal City? And why doesn't the statistics sort of show a zoom up with flock?
Well, I think it absolutely has an effect. Like I said, we're solving cases that in the past we would not have solved. And our fourth detective, just to touch on that for a second, when we added the fourth detective, our other three detectives were buried in cases. So they're still catching up to the current level of caseload that they have. It hasn't had, they're still coming from behind, in other words. So some of these cases that they're gonna solve on flock, they haven't even been started yet, if that makes any sense. And then as far as flock goes, it's 30,000 calls a year that we take, several different offenses here, and we get a lot of positive results out of this. But as far as changing percentages over 30,000, it's a pretty big number. So I think it is having success. I don't know that it's gonna totally swing the pendulum one way, but it is a good investigative tool.
It doesn't seem to have.
I would argue it's a small data set too. It's a small sample size. We've only had it deployed for a short period of time, relatively speaking, Councilman. So I would say that's a part of why we're not seeing the clearance rates correlate to the flock cameras, but we are absolutely clearing stuff that we weren't clearing before. So I think that'll catch up to it in the next year or so.
Going to the first part of the presentation with regard to crime rate. If we look at can you make a statement about the crime rate of Burning, Schertz, Live Oak, Selma, Universal City, and Congress, a comparative statement, or even compared to national statistics for the U.S. or Texas?
I went off of just our stats today. Do you know when you started with that? Is that 2 months from now?
Yeah, another month or so.
I don't have all that data. I didn't have it all today to put into this to do a comparison. I did those comparisons for the 5-year one, and I have done it in the past, and we were typically all in the
Yeah, well, the data that I have shows that the chief actually lives in the safest of those neighborhoods with essentially a crime rate of total crime.
What does that matter?
Total.
Mr. Revolve, do you have Mr. Revolve, do you have a question or something?
Yes, the question was, we have been inundated by essentially websites that say that the crime rate in Universal City, the crime rate is higher than the national average. and higher than surrounding cities.
If you're gonna use quotes, I would use them on the website part, not the crime rate part. Those websites use proprietary software, proprietary algorithms to take this set of numbers and then apply whatever demographics that they want to apply or pull from the internet to determine how safe it is. It's not, these are the accurate numbers. This is what goes on in our city. The ratings of a website, we don't use that data. We don't watch it. It's not accurate. Randolph Air Force Base has the same rating we do.
Yep. And it's been my experience that when a city pays or contracts with those folks to provide a more accurate study, that once you make that payment or contract with them, miraculously your crime rate drops. So to Chief's point, it's really a proprietary algorithm that's just trying to put out some clickbait and things like that for you. It's not our data. Most of it's not our data. We're not any higher than so.
We have a request from Jim.
I have not been inundated with those statistics. I have not seen the statistics that you're referencing, so please don't say that we have been. You have been.
Okay, it was posted on the council website.
Bernie, I don't look at that.
No, hang on now.
Well, first of all, let me.
Mr. Mayor,
let me finish a sentence, please. Do you have any verifiable information, not from the internet, that actually has been vetted by our trained, educated police officers? Or do you have just stuff that you took off the internet?
Let me ask the question.
Can you answer the question?
Yes,
Have any
I do,
information?
sir. I do. I do for the
Just
chair.
asking the question.
Yes.
So what is your question?
So the question is it a fair comparison using the national incidents-based reporting system that all these communities are using to say that the Universal City crime rate is lower than their rates?
Okay, the question is, a yes or no question. Yes or no?
Can you repeat it one more time?
I'm sorry.
National State
Yeah.
Statistic.
Since all the communities now that I cited are using the NIBRS database, the same format that you provided me last June or July type thing. And when I take it off of the Texas portal, it shows essentially that the total crime rate in Universal City is significantly higher than Schertz. It's significantly higher than Selma. It's definitely significantly higher than Bernie, a population of a similar size. And it shows that it's significantly higher than the national average that reports it through the FBI Central Reporting Site. So I'm confused a little bit. If you're saying that they're not reporting the data from using the NIBR system, I'll accept that, but I believe
No,
they are.
NIBRS, I would say, is accurate, yes. But the comparison isn't necessarily accurate. Universal City is not the same as Bernie. It's not the same as Schertz.
So how do you compare?
How do you feel, sir?
Well,
Do you feel unsafe when you move around the city and you go to places?
First of all, the data that you provided, okay. The data
Can we agree to move on? Because you're not going to get the answer you're looking for. So,
Mr. Mayor, a retired minister presented before this council his concerns about crime in Universal City. The president of the EDC was confronted by a burglar several years ago in the middle of the night, and the burglar fled. A resident and council member stated that his handyman's tools were stolen from a vehicle while parked in front of his house in broad daylight. A recently retired female Army officer reported 2 incidents of human trafficking since she moved and has since moved from Universal City. A retired widow with a career in criminal justice reports confrontation with a person that she identifies as Mexican with an investment.
Chief wants to make the chief would like to make a comment.
We have 20,000 residents in the city. We had 66 burglaries last year. Things are going to happen. We do have crime. we're in the center, we're in a major corridor of 35 and 1604. We are gonna have people come in from outside and commit crimes here.
But there's no major crime trend. We are static. We're pretty level since, what, Chief, 2018, 17, 16, 15? It's pretty much static.
So, let me understand what you're saying. So you're reporting that the statistical crime rate that you've reported is for some reason not comparable to the statistical crime rate of our surrounding communities. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I said at all. If you're using strictly NIBRS data, I would say that is accurate.
And if you're comparing Bernie, I would totally agree that that's accurate. You can't, they're two different cities. Bernie's isolated out in the middle of nowhere, and we sit next to the sixth largest city in the country. Crime is usually a direct derivative of population.
I'm looking forward to re-election.
Do you have a question that you can actually ask instead of giving a lecture?
I did ask you a question.
Yes, we gave you an answer.
Are the crime rates that were presented?
And the answer is no, it's not accurate information.
No, sir, that's not what he said.
Okay, it is accurate information.
He said that the information
You
is
accept his
accurate.
answer.
Crime rate is accurate as reported by surrounding cities. That's what he said, and I agree with that.
Do you accept his answer?
I accept that the crime rate reported by other cities is accurate, and it's the same way.
May we move on now? May we move forward?
Sir.
Thank you. Chief, thank you very much, and thank you very much. Let's close this out and move forward, and we'll go with the city manager's announcements.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We actually,
Oh, I'm sorry,
all the
Public
chiefs are
Works.
leaving, and I want to thank them for all the time, especially Chief Mahalski that he put into getting those two presentations ready.
We do have Public Works.
Yes, we
That's
have
right,
Public Works
presentation.
is up next, so I've asked Randy to do a couple of updates since our consent agenda was light. The first thing he's going to talk about is park improvement, and then the second item that I've asked him to talk about is the Public Works Center.
All right, Mayor Council, I was asked to give y'all an update on our parks, the progress from where we were to where we are now. This is something that I'd like to talk about to show you our progress, where we've become, where we've been, and where we're going to. Very good. With all our plans that we do, we pretty much like this. This is a master plan. You'll see as we go through the slides that every park that we have, we master plan it out before we start developing. So if you're familiar with this one, this was the Northview Park. This is one of the first ones that we improved, with the playgrounds and the splash pad and pavilions and stuff like that. So that was our master plan. You'll see before 2010, it was just bare piece of land. This is land that we actually got through a bond from the Sir Civil University ISD. That we purchased through them to behind the library that currently to expand where the park used to be relocated to this area right here. You'll see the improvements that we made. And this is one of our high visited parks in the city. Just do that splash pad, which will open up on April 6th next month. And you'll see that parking lot pretty much full, especially in the summertime. Moving on, this is another one we worked on, was the Ina Blake Dog Park. We master planned that one out. You'll see, I wish it was all green. It's not.
Work on that.
Yes. But here is you'll start with fairground out there next to the animal shelter. And you'll see we pretty much followed that master plan as you see there. Only thing we haven't done is we eliminated the playground. We got pretty much, it's not a good mix to have kids and animals there, but pretty much everything else was built per plan. There it is right there. Then we moved on to, many of y'all were at the ribbon cutting of this one, Meadows Park there off of Meadowland. We master planned that one out as well. And then you'll see the before, 2010, what it looked like. It was the HOA neighborhood association at one point where there was a pool and tennis courts and stuff like that. And then these aren't great aerials, but you'll see where we put in the basketball court and new playgrounds and a brand new pavilion. And you'll see everybody in the evenings when I'm going home, that basketball court is full up out there being used. Then we got a new subdivision, Cabano. Not so much of a master plan because the KB Homes, when they developed this is what they put in, so we didn't have much expense. But since they put this park in, you'll see the open space. This is one of the parks that we still need to finish building out. One thing that we did, there's a playground. You'll see that one playground that's out there. That's pretty much the only improvements that are out there that's related to the parks. We did put an awning over the playground, and the PIP is something that we'll have to replace next year. But eventually we'll want to master plan the rest of this park out. I haven't got a master plan on this one, but it will be coming fairly soon. The next one was right across Old Cimarron Trail, which was the next neighborhood that KB did. This was Remington Place. These are both neighborhood parks. This one was master planned out, designed like this. And then you'll see the before 2015 and then after. This is another one before you didn't have an awning, we improved it with the shade structure over it. This is another one that I'm working on master planning out as well. We're trying to fix up what we have existing, and then we'll start circling back to these playgrounds and parks. So if y'all remember this one, we also had this as a master plan for many years. This one was phased quite a bit. We even got some Texas Parks Wildlife grants to help build out this park. But in the different phases, you'll see that it's become one of our well-traveled parks to where we get a lot of people, a lot of walkers using the trail, and then it is our trailhead to the nature park as well. But this one it exceeded my expectations. Trust me, there's a lot of people that go to this park. But there again, 2010, what it looked like, bare land, and this is what on the right, that's what it is here today. And this one we pretty much got it pretty much way we had designed it originally. So then recently, we had the Cimarron Clubhouse now, which we renamed to Neville Clubhouse. This was our master plan. We pretty much Clubhouse. That was another HOA that was turned into a park, small neighborhood park. These were the master plans that we had put together for that park. And then you'll see before 2010, and then on the right, we got new playground equipment in there. Everything pretty much at that location is new. But at the same time, while we were preparing for that, we also updated the clubhouse as well. And then Red Horse Park, that's one of our newest improvements as well. You'll see before 2010, and then you'll see all the improvements there on the right by adding another basketball court that is used quite a bit as well. 2 playgrounds at this park. This is our linear park. A lot of neighborhood people walk this park. And you'll see some smaller pavilions, exercise stations along the trails. We just put in that new parking lot all the way around. The alley was paved to add additional parking. And this has become one of our well-rented parks as well out there. And had nothing but a lot of compliments on this park. Universal City Park. So now we're starting getting into the parks that need improvements. Let me stress, need improvements. This is a Universal City Park. This is one of the, this is our high volume park. It's going to be significant when we do the improvements to this park. But you'll see on the left, these aren't great aerials, but on the left you'll see 2010. Not as much has changed other than in the area around the concessions. Before it was all asphalt, I changed it to concrete through there. We added restrooms in the center, additional restrooms. And now what we have under construction, that is wrapping up construction, is that pavilion right there on the left. So we remodeled the old pavilion. They're wrapping everything up now. There's some, once we get this one completed, there's going to be some picnic tables and some stadium type seating for the pickleball courts and stuff like that. But if you look on the right, that is our master plan for that park. So this park has been divided into 3 phases. We always call phase 1, phase 2, and then behind the hill has always been referred to phase 3. But you'll see the improvements. The biggest thing is getting the parking lot relocated and added in the back. And then there's some relocation, and this is going to be a very phased project to where once we get the parking lot in, we can start relocating some of these things on the fields and adding the fields. But all the playground equipment that we currently have needs to be updated quite a bit. So but we really want to follow this master plan that we put in place. We've had design now for at least 2 years now. But we started with that pavilion, and that was in this year's budget, so they're wrapping up that now. So, but again, it'll be a phased project. So I threw this slide in here. This is the location of all our parks. So you'll see it's kind of, if you can see, the green is our biggest, the 2 biggest ones, which is that stand out as Red Horse and UC. And if you follow the Kitty Hawk line, which I would say the pointer, but the pointer won't work on that screen. Most of our parks are located south of Kitty Hawk Road. All right. The only dog park that is Athenian in Olympia is really the only park that we have north of Kitty Hawk. And so we're lacking for that upper area park area, you know, for the community to go out and have their own park out there. So they really got to travel to one of these parks that are south of Kitty Hawk here. So this is one of the ones that you'll see in the upcoming budget is we really need to get the parking lot. The biggest thing when I go out for grants is what we have to do is put in parking lots. Because once we put in the parking lots, I can then go out for grants. Texas Park and Wildlife will not fund a parking lot. They will not fund utilities. So once we fund those items, I can easily go get grants, matching grants, and start developing these parks. So this is one that we'll target next year as First Summer Park, adding the parking lot just like we did on all the other parks that we did. But this one was master planned. This one's probably my longest one that was been master planned out that we haven't done yet, because we started with the existing parks and we're circling back. Let's circle back to that one. So right here is the master plan. You'll see where we'll tie in from Universal City Boulevard to Gauteng. With that, but everything you see in concrete there, I can do the trails grant, but once we get those trails in, plugging in the playgrounds, plugging in the pavilions will be pretty easy to plug those in. Won't take much effort, but the biggest expense we'll be doing the parking lot, but the other things I can get matching grants for. So the other one that you're going to see coming before you, this one we're really excited about, is when we get the development coming in. And let me circle back to this one real quick. What's important, let me go back 1, 2, right here. Let me go back to this. We have 2 apartment complexes coming on Pilot Road. Where are they going to walk to? Those folks would, their nearest park would be to walk at Coronado, because the 2 apartments will be between Coronado. And that would take them to that park right there, Summit Park. So there is a need for this park to be developed because of those apartment complexes that are coming. And then with this particular one, we got 2 more apartment complexes coming in. One that's going to be adjoining that North Lake right there, that they can just walk out and walk across what we're going to call Flatlight Way, and they can actually walk to the park. And so this will be another, once we start this project, hopefully soon, making those agreements with mixed use. It's going to be multifamily, commercial, that's going to be developed in there. Even some senior living that's proposed. This is what we've got master planned out around the lake. You're going to have walking trails. I'm excited. You're going to have fishing piers and docks out there. You'll see the pavilions are kind of designed around the runway around out of the runways, I'm forgetting my, hangars. The hangars, thank you. I was hoping somebody would catch what it looks like, yes. That's kind of mirror what we're doing, the road right next to it is White Line Way, so we're trying to do a thing through there. Some pickleball courts that are added. And then you'll see the road just to the right there. There's gonna be that channel right there that gets opened up because there's a big hill there. When we go to this, you'll see that pedestrian bridge that gets added. So when you go from the playground to across the bridge, that leads you to where the apartments are gonna be. And then you'll see the awning there, the yellow, that's gonna be an exercise station, right across from there. So it's a little bit of everything that we're adding in there. And then I was excited about just received these next slides. This is a rendering, what we're hoping it will look like with the trees and everything. And you'll see, like canoes and everything in the water there, but you'll see the next one. There's the overall, from the view. Only thing we don't have is where the apartments are going to be, but you can visualize on the other side where all those trees are, will be the apartments there. But this will be all walking distance. We're going to have 10-foot walking trails along the big corridor through there, so this will be where you can walk to this particular part. And that is the end of my presentation on the parks.
Let me tell you why we have the parks here, because obviously the staff is already working on a budget, so Randy obviously is working on parks projects. And sometimes when we bring those to council, they always say, well, what are you doing in parks? So this is your preview. You'll be seeing it again, some of these components again, when we get to the budget cycle. And so I thank you for that. Any questions on parks or parks projects, parks budgets, before we move on to the next section?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quick one, Randy. Can you eat the fish from North Lake?
Do what?
Can you eat the fish from North Lake?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm just checking.
Okay.
But there is a no trespassing right now, is there not?
Yeah, right now we have it, we're not promoting fishing at this time, but yes, we've known people to get fish out there, yes.
Any other comments, Ms. Platt?
I have a comment. We've got some pretty magnificent parks for a city that's only 5.4 whatever square miles, and I applaud you because the grants that you get, how hard you work on it, no other city has parks like we do, and so congratulations, I'm very proud.
Yeah, and I can't thank you, Parks Partners, that have been supporting us with this, because we can't do it without y'all. Just the different opportunities that y'all have given us, funding and stuff like that has helped us tremendously along the way.
Well, bingo's coming, so so's another check.
And one last thing I'll throw in there, we have a trails grant that's coming. I'm just waiting on the archaeological to give us the go-ahead, but we got our phase 2 of the nature trail that will be also included, which I didn't include in these slides, but that is something we've also worked on. But we got 2 more phases to go on the nature trail through the Civil Creek.
Any other comments or anything? Thank you very much, Randy. Appreciate that. And just FYI, when I'm out running around doing my morning walks in various areas and down the Civil Trail, I randomly will ask people where they're from, and approximately 40+% of the folks that I encounter out in our parks are from outside Universal City. And they make a point to come to Universal City to use our parks. That includes the Union Trail, Large Park, Red Horse, and side streets.
And Splash Pad.
Oh, definitely Splash Pad.
Yes, definitely Splash Pad, yes.
And the reason why I like bragging on parks, because I don't get praise on when I'm replacing the water line or sewer line. But the parks, they that's, so I enjoy when I present park projects, yes.
And that pavilion looks great.
So,
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Randy, one consideration is essentially whenever you're doing the park layout, particularly in the Civil Creek area, I wonder if you'd think about a program to make sure that the century oaks are kind of protected. Right now, they're being beat to death by frisbee disc in some areas, but there's some beautiful century plus oaks down there. That's a wonderful place.
Yeah, I have the natural area preservation because that's in our preserve area. so that they come and they do inspections every year, so they're looking into that. And they really, I have to walk it with them and stuff like that. So they always let me know everything looks good and stuff like that, so they're amenable to that.
All right, so Randy talked a lot about the work that he's been doing on master planning parks, and so he and I recognize that when it comes to the proposed public works site, that really, maybe other than Mayor Maxwell, none of you were here when we started working on the public works site. So I think we started on that, 12 years ago?
15.
And so after Randy does his presentation, we will need a little bit of guidance from City Council on moving forward with that. So I asked Randy to go ahead and do a full presentation again on the proposed Public Works Annex building so that we can have a robust discussion.
So I'm going to start with a little bit of background. We have, if you've currently been at my Public Works building now, that's where we office out of. That building was built in 2005. It's fully functional, it serves our purpose, everything. But we have two different functions. Really, the current one is in the shop in the back, we have vehicle maintenance. In the front is all the admin, and that's where everybody reports to and stuff. The old yard, which we'll be talking about today, where we're proposing the annex building, that is what technically we call our dirty yard. That's where everything gets stored, that's where everything gets housed. And we're still using the facilities that have been there since the 70s. I think we only added the utility shop building. It was the only thing that we ever added. We remodeled the old Public Works building. It's turned into an off-site storage, file storage that we have, servers and stuff like that. So those buildings exist. But really that is a yard that we utilize as best as we can. We know that's all we got. But we gotta move on because it's been 20 years now. In the past 15 years and longer, we've had this plan. This is not nothing we just came up with. We've been planning this for quite a while by purchasing the land located behind that existing yard. We've been working on, which through council, through the budget process, we brought in the sewer to that particular property. And then we brought in drainage as well for anticipation of all the utilities. So we've been working on all the utilities to get to this point where we are now. And those are two recently completed projects. So you'll see, get to it now, whoops. Here's a rendering of this proposed building. This is basically a metal building with some CMU, but pretty much the majority of it is a metal building with a CMU facade on the admin portion of the building, and as it goes down the sides. It will, if you're familiar when you drive into our public yard area, once you pass my tanks, you take a right into my parking lot there. If you go straight, you're going to the old animal shelter. This will face on the left-hand side. So that would be the front of the annex building there. Here's the site. You'll see right down in the middle, the dark line in the middle, we see the last structure there. That is currently the size of our existing yard. Everything else is the land that we purchased over 15 years ago that we purchased for the expansion of this property. You'll see everything drains to the back, and that's going to come important here in a minute. But everything on the bottom of that screen is the structures that will remain. Everything above that on the other side will be demoed. Those are all either conlot boxes. It's the original shop, mechanic shop years ago, and just different awnings that we have out there just to keep everything as much as we can, keep it out of the sun, in the shade. Okay, here is some profiles for you to look at. These aren't fancy drawings like my parks presentation, but, but just give you a little bit of profile of it. You'll see, and this is probably this next one, that the land slopes down, and you'll see the different elevations that it's going to show where it tears down as it slopes down through there. The purpose of this, basically it's going to be what we're designing is about, let me see here, total bottom floor of the admin is about 8,200 square feet. It's going to be designed for future growth where there's another 8,250 unfurnished area that would be designed upstairs in this building. So we're designing it for growth. And this area will, the back half of it's about 23,700 square feet, nothing but shop area that will house the street department, utility department, parks department, and also provide vehicle storage, especially all our critical vehicles that need to be indoors that we currently don't have enough space for during the freeze and stuff like that. Here's kind of a little bit of a foot down view of it. You'll see the first half of it is the admin portion of it, and then you'll see the back half is the different compartments, just labeled compartments, but you'll have streets, you'll have parks, you'll have utilities, and then you have the vehicle storage. What's significant on this design is everything that we have sits outdoors. Everything that is your hydraulic hoses, anything that is tarps or canvas or anything, just the barrels that we have for traffic control. I showed Mr. Rubel, who came and did a tour with us. I was appreciative that he came and took a tour on how everything, the UV eats up everything that we have pretty much out there. We try to use everything from trees to awnings or whatever, the critical stuff that they keep out of the sun, out of the weather. But there's only so much that we can do. That's why we got those boxes in there to keep things sorted, stuff like that. But currently, the two difference of these functions of these buildings is currently with my streets, my parks, and my water would be going to this annex building, and they would work out of this building with having all the storage, everything at this site. The current facility I'm at will still function as an admin building, but what we're doing is the mechanics in the back, they need more space. So my two front bays, they would expand that. So we're able to address that need as well at the same time. Basically, the existing where I'm at, the back half of the shop, will be the mechanics and receiving that we receive. Right now, our size of our training room, I got people sitting on benches and stuff like that. We make it work. I can expand the courtyard. We make it work. But this will actually house more room over here with the guys. And then also what we do a lot that probably y'all don't see is we bring in training. We bring UT Arlington to do training for us. We bring TEC to do training for us. What we try to do is do in-house training to where we don't have to send our guys out where we got to put them up in hotels and stuff like that, out of town and stuff like that. So when we do that, when we bring training over here, whether it be online or in person, we get other cities that come to us, and we can hold a lot more classes by doing that. My training ring also doubles as a backup for City Hall, Fire Department, Police, so when they have training, they'll host their training classes down at Public Works. Even we have our meetings, I know the Police Academy would have meetings down there as well at times. But this thing will be able to, for space, create more space for any type of meetings. We can even do elections down there because of the way that we're having this design, where the entry can come right into it. But basically, right now, by going to this, I'll free up one office at my existing facility because we're basically doubling up in the current facility now, to where even we brought in stormwater from City Hall down to us. I had to put him up in the training room right there. So I think right there we'll free up one office at my current, and then there'll be two vacant offices at this building once we transfer everybody over. So this is the profile of everything here. Here's just another rendering of it. On this one here at the very back where you see the gray area, that's where the detention. So as I showed you, everything slopes to the back. So that's where detention is. But everything on the side, so this will be a phase project as well because it is an expensive project. When we bring our bond counsel and our in here, We're looking at 6.5 million is what we're proposing for this phased approach. Everything on the outer portion is awnings, and those will be phased in later. We'll try to get the structure of the building, we'll get the lands, everything built, paved, try to get everything, pretty much everything seen and down the center all the way to the back built with our issuance, proposed issuance. But everything else, if we can do it with this issuance, and great. If not, we'll phase it in. But those are easier to phase in, just building the awnings later and at a lesser cost. And that's pretty much into my slides there.
So one of the reasons Randy touched on it, so as you know, I mentioned that from a staff perspective, we're always starting to work on next year's budget. So, you know, spoiler alert, on March 17th, we're going to ask you to approve the contract for construction for our first $6 million in street bonds. And so since we're going to award that contract, that means it's time to start planning for our next $6 million in street bonds. And so while we're doing that, we're trying to get consensus from council to have Victor Quiroga, our bond counsel, come and do a presentation on the next $6 million and what it would mean to your debt service rate, tax rate. And then also a discussion with him on if you decided to issue revenue bonds from the water and sewer department for this project, what your payment plan would look like and how far out that would go. And the reason we have to start that now is because you have to remember we have a rate consultant. He needs direction from you on how he needs to classify the rates with or without debt service. So just looking for a consensus to have Mr. Quiroga come in at a future council date and give you some updates on those funding options.
Just FYI, Victor has been very good to Universal City, has been very helpful in the past years. I think we've used him since I was on council when we started over 2010. So we have consensus forward, 3 or 4. Mr. Duval.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate a need for improvement of public works building. I do appreciate the tour provided by Randy and his staff. There definitely is a need. The question is the magnitude of the need and basically whether or not we should be in a position, for example, to provide effectively a lecture hall for outside training. Our police department uses the golf course as a training center, as an example. Basically, there are schools that have large meeting areas that are now unfilled in Universal City, closed down in Universal City. There are lots of things that could be associated with that. And I would definitely support this if this were quite a bit scaled down.
Let me help you with that. Every morning, these guys sit in that room. Every morning, they get their detailed day tasks given to them every day. They get their lectures. They get what's going on in the day. Even when we have emergencies like the freeze, anything that's going on in the city, that is basically my room to do all our critical planning and everything. Everything's laid out. Police can even use that as, what do you call it, a command center as well, EOC. My building currently is planned for that, if we had to use it as that. But even when we do stuff like that, that's the type of, they've done several training courses there, but that room is there for the guys every meeting to watch safety videos. I gotta have a room like that regardless. The training that we have to do, just day-to-day training that we have to do to provide them, that's what that purpose is at when they sit down there in that room.
Randy, you're probably the best able to handle this next question, and that is, what do you see your staffing have to build out, whatever that target is that you and the city manager most sees? How much expansion will you actually have for build-out? Is that a fair question?
Define expansion, what do you mean?
Well, first of all, we're expanding to a $6 million facility with essentially, what is it, triple the space of what you currently have? Is that about right for office space and expansion space, at least that?
This is similar size to what I have currently, in which basically their day-to-day, they'll take this, if you're focused on just the admin portion. Is that what you're focused on?
Well, I guess I'm focused on the end game plan.
This is for build out. This is, what I'm trying to do here is for build out. Because, like I told you, the first floor is 8,000 square feet. The second half, the upper part, if we had to expand, it's unfurnished. It is another 8,250. If we ever need to have additional staffing, we can build that out. So there is room for growth. We've looked at everything with awning and storage. I currently don't have that right now. You saw that for yourself. And so
the awnings that you recently put in were very, very good. Your double parkings.
I'm having a double park, yeah.
And awnings certainly will protect traffic barrels from UV light.
Exactly, and that's what's playing here. But there's things that got to get out of the weather, right? That's what basically this is the back half is the warehouse. So things that I can't bring in inventory, things because I know it's going to be, you just throw it away, right? Because I can't store it. I don't got room to store it. Now we'll have room. The guys will have the needs. They'll have the resources. They'll have everything. Right now, the sign shop. I need a sign shop. You saw this. You saw that little room, that tiny room. So that is the needs that we need in here. And so basically, they'll function out of this building to where my current need, where I'm at now, is I need more mechanic space. I need where I can put the fire trucks. I need that space. So they need this space to where they're doing everyday function in and out of this yard. And
how many people do you see increasing your staff at build-out with regard to the doubling of the 8,000 square feet potentially? Is there a need for that? Do you really see that at build-out?
there is staffing wise, that's something me and the city manager will have to work through, what the future is. There's a need, but I haven't done calculation on those numbers because we got to work within what budget I have right now, so.
Yes, if I might just add, so it's not that we haven't talked about it, and yes, we are planning for it, but we do what most cities do, and we plan for police and fire first, and then unfortunately, public works next, and then after that, everyone else. So we know how many police and fire we need to build out, we can tell you that right now. But we already know, street-wise, we need 2 more. We know how many utility crews do you have?
Utilities, I'm good.
You're good for right now, but at build-out, he's probably gonna need another utility crew, and probably another sewer crew. So we know we need staff. The other area where we really need it, because we just finished bragging about it, is we need more parks personnel. It's one thing to have a park and to have it look beautiful, it's another thing to maintain it. So are we gonna be needing to add staff in probably every department at some point? Yes, but again, we'll start with police and fire, and then everybody else will come after that. So
Thank you.
Everybody else, they're all like throwing daggers at that back.
I think the consensus is to proceed.
Thank you. We'll get with Mr. Quiroga and set up a date that works with his schedule, and that still gives us plenty of time to work within our budgets.
By any chance did that exhaust your city manager announcements?
Whew, okay, so March 18th, mark your calendars, we have a baby arriving, it's called a brush truck. We'll be doing what do they call it, a push-in that day. You are all invited to be here. March 25th through 28th is the Friends of the Library book sale. Please attend. They do a very good job selling items and supporting our library. April 6th, the splash pad opens. I look forward to seeing all of you there for that. And then on May 2nd is the air show, which is also election day for some of you. It's a very busy day. Whether or not the air show will happen, we'll see. However, as you know, on election day, it's also the day that we have our pancake breakfast. Too much to ask for one day. So the fire department has graciously decided to put their pancake breakfast on May 9th. So mark your calendars for that.
Smart.
That's all I have, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mayor's announcement, first of all, Snowfest was a rousing success. Did we ever get a attendance account approximately?
So, Mayor, thank you for asking. On an upcoming agenda, we are going to have a full presentation on Snowfest, revenues and expenses for Mr. Graval, guest count for everyone else, and then Kathy will be here giving an update on all of our marketing efforts, and which will weigh into the number of people in attendance.
Super. There was nothing but compliments throughout the entire time. It was a smooth operation. One of the really, they held the most call that I've been experienced with in the past. Yes.
I walk my dog a lot, and I see almost late, not quite late at night, but I see Randy walking around doing the final arrangements for Snowfest, type thing. And God bless Randy.
I think he does that in his sleep. This past week, I had the opportunity to visit Wagner High School. I was invited out there to tour their culinary program. They have a charter program that is absolutely wonderful. I wish they had that opportunity back many decades ago whenever I was that age. It's well presented. They teach them a wide range of culinary talents as well as background. And surprisingly, when I asked who wants to be a chef, only one person actually raised their hand. So they're looking at other aspects as far as using the opportunity for food service. The next day, I had the opportunity. I got invited to Harmony Public School. It's a charter school, STEM, specializing in sciences and some trades. And I was absolutely blown away with the program. Our police officers here they have a drone program there, so we're going to be, one of our officers may very well be one of their judges for some upcoming competition. First Friday is this week at the base. For those that have it on the market, or on your calendar, I should say, if you don't have an ID card, you will not be able to get in. It's strictly an ID access because of what's happening around the world right now. Randolph is on the 100% ID check. So security clearances security is the main concern. Daylight saving time is coming up this weekend, and on the 21st of March is our collaboration for the comprehensive plan. And I would like to, we have two people here that are running for seats on the coming election, and I'd like to invite them to attend, along with all the city council members. And that's all I have as the mayor. And my policy is that whoever does the application gets to start off. Mr. Regal, the floor is yours.
Very short, Mr. Mayor. I thank Councilman Goolsby for getting me here early today. Essentially, I got what I thought was a panic email for a quorum. So I rushed down here, not realizing that it wasn't even near 6:30. And basically, so I wish to express my gratitude to Mr. Goolsby's wife, who's getting an award, and who has given or is giving an award for her work this evening. And he's going to buy some flowers too. That's on the record.
Ms. Budd?
We've had a lot of talk. I'm done. Good night. Thank you.
I have nothing to add.
I was just going to say, there was words that were used by the person who presented the audit today that I just wanted to call out. She talked about that the departments show great discipline in their spending, and she also said that we are a good example of good stewardship of public funds. And I think that those are really important things for us to look at. I think we sometimes get down into the weeds where we really need to be looking at a higher level and thinking we've hired good people, we have people that we can trust, they're doing a good job. We're here to provide guidance on what we should be doing. We really need to rely on you to execute it. That's all.
Well said.
Thank you.
Mr. Gold.
I'm good, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, that's closed out. Let's go to the number 7, consent agenda. We only got one item there, so we're not going to be pulling it unless you're going to need to be addressed separately. Move for approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for the vote.
Councilmember Goolsby.
Aye.
Councilmember Shelby.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Putt.
Aye.
Councilmember Revolt.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Action item A, resolution 930D 2026 mobile food truck park agreement at 214 Rosewood Drive.
Thank you, Mayor. So as you mentioned, we are talking about the property at 214 Rosewood. If we could pull up the aerial, just to give folks an idea of where this is located. Thank you, Maribel. So it's right where the oil change is at Pat Booker, across from Chester's on Rosewood. So it's not on Pat Booker, it's just off Pat Booker Road. And it's a vacant property. There used to be a building there, I think about 6-7 years ago, was torn down right next to the former locksmith building that is now purple. So that might help you identify the location. Anyway, it's a vacant lot, and we were approached by the new owner of the property to establish a food truck park at this location. And so we provided them with the ordinance so they could figure out whether they could accommodate all of the requirements within the ordinance on that smaller lot. It's about 7,200 square feet, and they did. So they do meet the code. I'll just highlight some of the items. So our code does require a minimum of 3 food trucks. And so if we can pull up the site plan. And so Rosewood is at the lower end of this. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there is, you have Rosewood Drive, and at the back you have an alley. It does back up to a residential neighborhood. So that was one of the concerns that we had, and made sure that they mitigate that impact as much as possible. But as I did mention, this is on a half block of commercial already. There is a strip center right next door with a restaurant and a couple of other tenants. And a gas station at the intersection. And so on the site specifically, they do require 3 food trucks. They met that requirements. They have 3 pads, 4 food trucks. They have 10 parking spaces. They're required to have 9 by code. The outdoor eating area for the customers, they are required to have 18 seats. So you see there 4 picnic tables. And so they're providing 24 seats. And bicycle racks, they do have a trash enclosure, which is located at the rear of the property, the top of the page on the right-hand corner. That is going to be accessed via the alley. And we did check with Waste Management to make sure that it's properly located and that they can pick it up at that location, and they did agree to that. And then outdoor restrooms are right behind, right next to the trash enclosure. And so there are 2 restrooms there. And they will be connecting to city sewer and water as well as CPS for power. So happy to answer any questions. The property owner is out of the country at this point. I told him that we could postpone it to next month, but he asked that we put it under consideration tonight.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, so I have a question. How much, I can't see the dimensions between the truck that is on the far right and the fence line of the house behind them.
Okay, so from the truck, you have approximately 15 feet to the fence line, and then you have the alley, which is probably about 20 feet, 15, 20 feet.
15 feet.
Yeah. So you're gonna have about 25 to 30 feet. They're also gonna install a fence, a wooden fence, an 8-foot fence at the rear of the property.
Okay, so as with most food trucks, I expect a generator to be running.
No, they're gonna hook up to,
So the whole area is gonna be hooked up.
no generators, and that was one of the things we talked about.
Okay, I wasn't sure because you mentioned the facilities. I wasn't sure if you were talking about the trucks as well. So then you answered my question, so there will be no generators. Fantastic, thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Golden?
Thanks, sir. So, one thing that I want to make sure that we're not doing is that we're not going to become the coffee, food truck, all that stuff,
Mexican food.
one-stop shop. Help me digest this, help me, it doesn't have to be tonight, it could just over time. I don't want every vacant lot to have food truck court, because then there's not going to be enough people to eat.
Sure, so, the market dictates, this is, they can do this, per our code, as long as they are approved by city council, but again, I go back to the market, and so they have to do their analysis beforehand to see whether or not it's gonna be sustainable or viable for them. I did talk to the owner about that, he believes that he will be successful. One of the other things we talk about with them is location compared to where the other or existing or proposed food trucks are. So we have one in the aviation district. It's not right next door. This is closer than the one at 1980, right across the street from City Hall. So 3 locations, not butting up against each other. I think we're okay at this point. But that is something that City Council will have to consider if we do get, additional proposals. We have been in talks with some folks. It hasn't materialized, but up at the north end of town, where Athenian and Centerbrook are located, there's a vacant lot right before you go into the turn to the Forum. Someone had talked to me about doing a similar type of situation up there. Again, they haven't followed through, but I think that would be an okay location as well because it's on the other side of town.
Okay, and that's, so you're understanding my concern, right? And I don't want to now put the other ones out of business by allowing 15 more.
Yeah, we don't want to oversaturate Universal City with food truck parks.
Okay,
Different places, coffee or gas stations.
Just want to put all the future ones on notice. They better bring something special or be far enough away. That's all I'm going to do.
I understand.
You have to remember that if you look at it geographically, the one that we have serves a very good residential community down there. This one is also very walkable, life at night, someplace for them to go in their neighborhoods, as well as the one at 1980, UC Boulevard, which will do very well because of their proximity to all of the apartment complexes. So I think they all have their own niche and neighborhoods they can serve.
And this one will have at least one Chinese food truck, so I don't think that they have them at the aviation district.
We don't have any Chinese food trucks.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Galt?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Real quickly, Mike, Michael, did you get buy-in from the residents on Oak Lane for this project?
No, I did not. I did not ask for buy-in from them. This is a commercially zoned property and they have the right to go there.
Yeah, but it's commercially zoned property right adjacent to a residence swimming pool area. And so there's a concern there. It also competes with Los Porky's Tacos, which is literally right adjacent to that.
Yeah, but we're not the invisible hand.
I'm sorry?
We're not the invisible hand of the market. We can't dictate what goes where.
And do I understand that you said that they'll be running trash trucks down the alleyway behind that area?
Yes.
Is that done now?
I
It's a
don't know if it's done
non-paved area.
Commercial.
At the locksmith that they pick up in the alley, or was it? Yeah. I think they're coming in off of Rosewood right now.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to end up being a side load, correct?
Yes.
Randy, side load, which is different. It's a commercial truck, not a residential truck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We get retail tax off of these food trucks, correct?
Yes.
And how is that accounted for since they come and go? the brick and mortar, you can pretty well sustain, but somebody who drives in, and how do we verify their sales?
First of all, before they set up, we verify that they have a sales and use tax permit for the city of Universal City. That's the number one, right? They probably have it for multiple locations. Typically, the operator will keep track of all of that stuff simply because they are getting part of their revenue from their sales. So we always have the ability to spot check, make sure they're filing their appropriate 941 forms,
Okay.
which is their quarterly sales and use tax.
Any other discussion? Yes, sir. Yes.
We're gonna see an increase in the value of the land as well. So I see an increase in that form.
Yes, sir.
Call for the vote.
Councilmember Shelby?
Aye.
Councilmember Goolsby?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Fitzpatrick?
Aye.
Councilmember Putt?
Aye.
Councilmember Revolt?
Nay.
Motion carried.
And with that, it is 8:40, meeting is adjourned.
I was off by 10
Shout
minutes.
out to Ms. Maribel for all the work she did.
Yeah, I said 8:30.
9 presentations.
I didn't